Hello, Sugarless Amazons from around the globe. In our episode 4, we are flying to Jamaica and you're gonna love it. I'm going to present you a wonderful keto tribe leader from the Caribbean. Her name is Kelly McIntosh, and you're gonna love every single moment of this conversation. So let's quickly see what we spoke about. Hello, Kelly. Hello, Jamaica. How are you today? For you, it's day. For me, it's evening. It's a time difference, but there's always a way to find connection between similar energies. Welcome to Sugarless Amazons.
Thank you, Roberta. It's noon on a Sunday here in Jamaica. I'm so happy to join you for this conversation.
I'm really glad you had some time to join us. And I know that you, as a pirate of the Caribbean diet, let's call it this way, will definitely find a lot of subjects that are similar to our Sugarless Amazon, so the Mediterranean zone. So what I wanted to talk to you first is your background, your childhood. Did you grow up in Jamaica? How was it? Did you have a standard diet of that area, and how it led to your health and weight going the bad way? And then how you discovered the better way of living?
Okay, so yes, I was born in Jamaica. I grew up in Jamaica. I'm the eldest of 6 children. My entire family loves food. My father is an excellent cook. And so I grew up, food was very important to us. And yes, we ate standard Caribbean food. What does that mean? We ate a lot of chicken, a lot of fish, pork, some beef, but very carb heavy. We did not necessarily eat a lot of junk food when I was growing up. Processed food in Jamaica was not as big as it is now. So yes, we had Kentucky Fried Chicken. Yes, there were burgers, but those were always more expensive than traditional foods. So what we mostly ate was a lot of rice. Jamaicans eat a very rice-heavy diet. We ate a lot of starchy carbs like breadfruit, green banana, sweet potato, white English potatoes, and bread and sugar. We always had some sort of beverage sweetened with sugar. And I'm the eldest of 6, like I said, but I was the only one of the 6 that was fat. I was always heavier than everyone else. My dad was also quite a big guy, and his family also, they're from Grenada. That's another island in the Caribbean, eating typically the same kinds of meals, and they're also heavier. So yes, I grew up heavy, Roberta, eating the standard kind of Caribbean food. And I didn't necessarily like it growing up. And I tried different things. I can remember as a teenager doing different diets, going to the gym, trying to cut portions. And it would work for a while, but the way it would come back, it would be incredibly difficult because you're hungry. You know, I was hungry. And it wasn't until I was pregnant, or just before I got pregnant with my son, who's now 18, that I found a copy of this book, Atkins Revolution. And I bought a copy because, heck, I had tried every diet up until that stage. And I read this book that said, if you cut out carbohydrates from your diet, you don't have to watch portions, you don't have to go hungry. It changes something inside that allows you to burn fat. It sounded like, okay, I have tried everything else. Let me try this. And after I had my son and had weaned him off breastfeeding, I tried the Atkins way. And it was like a miracle. I was about 37, 36 at the time. And the weight came off. I felt great. I didn't have to watch portions. And then over time, I allowed myself to go back to eating the way I would normally eat. And I gained back quite a bit of that weight. And when I was nearly 50, when I was 49, that was 4 years ago, I thought, oh boy, I saw a picture of myself and I had gained all this weight and I did not like how I looked. And my son, who was 14 at the time, was also struggling with his weight. And I said to him, look, I know a way that will help us. Do you want us to try it for 30 days and see how it works? And he said, yes. Looking back now, he says I forced him to do it, but I remember it as an invitation. Anyway, Roberta, we started on this journey together 4 years ago. And my progress this time around was very, very slow. May have been hormonal because I was 49 at the time. But I stuck with it because I felt better. My brain worked, my energy levels were up, and my son, it was working fabulously for him. I couldn't wimp out. We had to remain each other's accountability partner. And 4 years later, this is still how we live. I have lost so much weight. I feel so much better. And so I still eat our Caribbean foods, but without the starchy carbs. And that's my story wonderful. In a nutshell, yes.
And without sugar, I'm assuming, without classical sweeteners, which are raising blood glucose and insulin, etc. Wonderful no story. Sugar. Wonderful story. It's really interesting that you use this energy to fix the life of yourself, your family, and your son in particular. And then you went further. You wanted to help more people, especially in your area. So you started not only a beautiful website, which I visited and learned a lot about you and read a couple of your articles. The way you are writing is really interesting, and I think that anybody who visits your website can learn a lot and get motivated. My most important part on Greek Goes Keto is to motivate people, to tell them that it's not that difficult. Just you have to find the right determination and motivation. So you also started a kind of a bakery business. Am I right? Tell us more about that.
So when about a year into my latest iteration of my journey, I was laid off from my job at the time. And I thought, let's take the time, Kelly, to find out what do you want to do? What is it that you want to do with your life? I had the space to do this. And I thought, and a lot of people who had watched me and observed the changes that were taking place had questions. Kelly, how are you doing this? How are you losing weight? What do you eat? And so I decided to read more, to research more, and to really answer the why. I knew it was working. I needed to be able to explain to people who asked why. And so I read, I listened to podcasts, I talked to people. And out of it, very naturally, came requests for food, for bread, for low carb foods. My daughter was the one who said, you should start an Instagram account showing people how you eat. And once I did that, and people, they said, can I buy this from you? And so I had all this time, Roberta, and in addition to writing blog posts about my journey and about some of the lessons I had been learning, people wanted to buy my food. And so I started to bake low carb bread. I evolved my own recipe. I baked low carb quiches, a low carb like a bun. So it was a semi-sweet treat that Jamaicans would find familiar. And I did that for about a year. I no longer do it because I went back into the work world. I got another 9-to-5 job, and I no longer do the baking because it's so time consuming. But out of my blogging and writing, people started to come to me for help and guidance. And so I started coaching. Coaching people. So I still am a keto coach to many people who have, I know what it is to feel downtrodden because of weight. And it is not, as I tell my clients, it has nothing to do with your character or your willpower or your lack of discipline. It has everything to do with a set of physiological reactions that are set off in some of us in our bodies when we eat, especially refined carbohydrates. It has nothing to do with whether you're a good or a bad person. I have found, I now understand what happens when I eat refined carbs and starchy carbs and sugary carbs, because there's the issue of addiction, there's the issue of cravings and interruptions of satiety. And so I know how to eat for me. And so if you think it might help you, I am more than willing to guide you, to show you how I eat, so that you see, when people hear keto, they think North America. And they don't think, can we do this in the Caribbean? Yes, you can. I am doing it. Here's how.
Actually, here in Europe, the homeland of low carb is Sweden. And I had a beautiful and wonderful person joining in my previous episode, Bitten Johnson, who's a world expert in sugar addiction and food addiction. So some people think that only American keto is any keto. That's not true. You have shown us that it can be done traditionally the way you are doing in the Caribbean. We are doing the Mediterranean version, which is totally different. We don't consume omega-6 high meat such as pork and chicken. We just go for lamb, veal, usually not even beef. We go for veal because its nutrients are much easier to digest. Of course, beef if it's available, and venison, and those all kind of seafoods which are good for us from ancient Greek time up to today. This diet, when my husband, who is a nutritional therapist, explored and now currently works on his master's in nutrition science, he explored the nutrition of ancient Greeks, and he realized that the warriors and athletes in ancient Greece ate low carb. They didn't eat high carb. They actually stayed away from bread. And of course, they didn't have sugar. They had some honey, but very rarely. They could once per month obtain it. And they ate a lot of seafood, eggs, and meat. And this was an interesting discovery. So both of us, we are going back to the ancestral food, to the ancient food. So what kind of fish? Seafood is a very interesting subject. What kind of fish and seafood you usually prepare when you have a festive meal? For example, when you have guests visiting. But I'm interested in particular in fresh seafood because that's what you have.
Right. So first of all, Jamaicans love fish. And
That's
we
wonderful.
eat the whole fish with the head on it.
The same like we.
The tail.
The same like Mediterraneans.
It's presented with pride, with the head and the tail still on it.
Head to tail.
We love a variety called the snapper, the red snapper or the yellowtail snapper. That's the most common one. There's another one that Jamaicans love, but I no longer eat it because we need to not eat the parrot fish to preserve the reefs. So I no longer eat parrot, but Jamaicans love parrot fish. And typically Jamaicans do fish in one of three ways. Escovitch, which is a play on Latin American escobiche, which is fried, dry, and then there's a vinegar, onion, pickle that's put on it. Or they steam it, which is with a lot of vegetables, a lot of pumpkin, okra, peppers, and you steam that with butter, and it's so delicious. And then there's another style.
It's still low carb. If we exclude pumpkin, it's very low carb.
Very low carb. The issue with Jamaican fish dishes is what they serve it with. So a Jamaican that eats typical Jamaican will not eat escovitch fish by itself. They'll have it with a fried dough called festival, or a fried cake made of cassava root, which is called bami, or they'll put crackers made with flour in the steamed version. So I eat the same fish, but I no longer eat festival or bami or crackers. And it is just as delicious. I have all the vegetable, all those low carb vegetables with it, all that nice peppery pickle, and it's fantastic.
What I would like to know about Jamaican tradition cooking oil, cooking fat. What's the traditional one and what do you use these days?
Right. Now, the traditional Jamaican cooking fat is highly processed, refined vegetable oil.
Oh.
They make it from corn or from soybean or a mix of refined oils. I no longer use that. I use mostly coconut oil for my cooking, virgin coconut oil, and I use extra virgin olive oil for dressing or drizzling after cooking. And that's a change that I have to advise my clients about. I said, we grew up with all this refined vegetable oil. That's a no-no. That's as bad as the sugar that you're cutting out. It's so inflammatory. It's so inflammatory and just toxic. That's the word I use. I save the word poison for sugar, and I save the word poison for refined vegetable oils. Cut those out. So I fry my foods, if I do fry them, with coconut oil.
Wonderful. What about butter, ghee? Do you use it a lot? And is it traditional? Because you mentioned fish with butter. This sounds already delicious.
So I use butter. I've never used ghee. I know that you can make it yourself. And I'm pretty sure that if I went to some specialty Asian shops, which we have them in Jamaica, I could get ghee. But I use butter for my eggs. And when I steam fish, I use butter. In Jamaica, if you buy steamed fish from a restaurant, it typically has margarine in it. So you have to be very, very careful, and they cook it with margarine. But I cook with butter. I have also made my own lard, and I have made my own tallow. It's very time consuming though. So I tend to just use coconut oil.
I was overwhelmed. Maybe you will notice a tweet, which I tweeted today. Last night we had a mutton roast, and I ended up with a lot of roast fat. And then on the next day, I used it to cook with this roast fat. And it was delicious. It was still getting all the aroma. So whenever you're roasting something, keep the fat to reduce the time of producing tallow. For example, if you're gonna roast beef, you're gonna end up with a lot of nice tallow, which is richer in omega-3 than omega-6. And we know when the balance, then but since you live in a zone where there's a lot of sun, a lot of beautiful nature, beaches, living by the ocean must be relaxing, and it's reducing the stress. So what is a typical lifestyle change advice you give to your trainees?
Oh, that's such a good question. I tell them that start enjoying the journey today. Don't wait until you've lost 30 pounds. Don't wait until you can put your favorite pair of jeans on. Don't do that. You going keto is not punishment for being fat. You're not depriving yourself of rice as punishment. You're not depriving yourself of sugar as punishment. So as you start today to remove those things that you absolutely do not need, and you start eating real food. Eat real food, that's number one. A lot of meat, eggs, green vegetables, drink water, and start to pay attention to how you now feel. Before you even step on a scale, start to monitor how you feel and start to put on lipstick, go for a drive, reach out to a friend. This is not punishment. We're not changing how we eat because we were bad people and we got fat. We are reclaiming our health. We are reclaiming control, and we are enjoying the journey. Keto is not a means to an end. It is a way of living. It's
I
a
got
way of living that
goosebumps.
just unleashes energy and health and well-being. Enjoy it today.
I got goosebumps from your energy, even through the internet. I can feel it, and I'm sure your trainees and anybody hearing you. Do you do some presentations, some seminars, some speeches? Because I think you should.
I would love to. Anytime I get the opportunity to speak about it, I do, because Roberta, my journey has not been just about losing weight and feeling better about myself. It has been about a life brought into alignment. Alignment is the word I use. Somehow, you know, I've said it's magic. When I started to take control of my health and take responsibility for my food choices, so many other things fell into place. And I've seen it with the people that I'm honored to coach. One young lady, she when she came to me, she wanted to buy, her doctor had told her to buy a CPAP machine because of sleep apnea.
Oh, yeah.
I said, give me 30 days, give me 30 days and hold off. Don't spend that money yet. It was a lot of money in Jamaica. In 30 days, she reversed all that sleep apnea. She went on to lose weight, and she took that sleep apnea machine money and she paid down on a brand new apartment. She
Wow.
went back to school.
This
She
is
finished her
amazing.
university degree. This is what I mean about a life coming into alignment. When we take control of one area, it spills over. It is so much more than losing weight, although losing weight is pretty good. Losing weight is nice, but it's so much more than that.
It's so much more than that. The energy, the inspiration, the creativity which we can achieve, everything is, and meeting people. The people I meet in the low carb and keto universe, like you, like all other, we call them Ketonians, but you don't have to be keto for life. Once you heal metabolically, you can even go to some type of very low carb diet, even occasionally have something which is carby, but learn how to deal with it later. It all comes back. So you don't have to feel, as you said, punished. It's extremely important to understand that during your healing process, you're doing something for yourself, nobody else. And also what's important, you help so many people, you help your family, but you first have to take care of yourself. You have to be an example, because if they see how you are thriving, how you are looking and feeling better, and you have more energy, then they will say, I can do that too. It's like motivator.
Yes.
And I just wanted to also ask you about your family and about this particular subject, which I mentioned, not going keto for life. You and your son are sticking to mainly low carb or keto, but your husband and your daughter occasionally are eating some carby things. So how does it work? You wrote an excellent article, which I read, and I was truly impressed, and I will invite everybody to go and read it. I'm going to put a link below. How to do keto in a non-keto household. So just a few sentences, not from the article, but something extra that you can say to those who will read the article.
So the first thing I would say is, if you're deciding to go low carb, the temptation in the early days is very, very real. So when I decided that I was going low carb, I went to the people that I live with and I said, I need your support. And I was very specific. I cannot cook rice for the next 30 days, because if I cook rice, or if rice is cooked, I'm going to eat it. Just give me 30 days. And they agreed. I promise you that 9 times out of 10, when we ask our family for support, they will. But you have to be clear, you have to be specific. And so for the first 30 days, there was no rice. My husband continued to eat bread, or he continued to eat a potato that he could just put in the microwave. And here's what happens. The longer you eat low carb, the weaker those cravings become. And so after a couple of weeks, a couple of months, he could eat what he wanted. I have a, he's now 10-year-old stepson, my bonus boy, I call him. And about 6 or 8 weeks into my keto journey, he said, Kelly, can we make brownies? I thought, this is gonna test me, Michael, this is gonna test me. But 8 weeks in, I felt more in control. And we baked brownies. And then I hid them. I said, that's for you and whoever else wants. So the key, ask for what you want in terms of support. You may need to ask them to hide their carby foods for the first couple of weeks. And the good news is the longer you starve a craving, the weaker it becomes. Right now, like I said, my husband and my daughter, they eat some rice, they might eat some bread, they might, it doesn't bother me in the least. I continue to eat my meat and my green veg. My son is the same way. My son has always eaten a little fruit, even through his journey, because 3 months in, he said, Mom, I miss fruit. He was 14 at the time. I said, you can have fruit. You can have fruit, but what you're going to do is treat it like a treat. So you're going to watch your portions, you're going to watch your consumption, and you can have fruit. Yesterday, we went to the beach. We went to a part of Jamaica where all the melon fields are coming in now. The most beautiful sun-ripened watermelons. So I stopped, I bought a watermelon straight from the field. When we were on the beach, I cut that thing up. My family had lots of it. I had a small piece. That's fine. That's natural food. I know myself. I'm not going to eat a big piece not because it will make me fat. A piece of watermelon won't make me fat, but it may very well trigger cascading cravings in me. So I know myself. So, but I did have a piece of beautiful, clean, sun-ripened watermelon straight from the field. And it was delicious.
I understand totally. Here's the thing, I have a great recipe. Did you know that watermelon rinds are edible?
No, I did not.
Oh, you have to see this article. So watermelon rinds contain much more citrulline and have almost zero sugar because all the sugar is in the red part.
Yes.
So I'm going to share this link with you. If you check out, you will never throw rinds again. It's a smoothie which tastes like real watermelon, but it's not what actually affecting your ketosis or your blood glucose. So we can get some benefits from those things. And this is how I eat with the family. Everybody eats the red part, and I cut out a little bit of the red part and some white part for me. So the edible part is this white part, not the green part. And it's very good for you, actually. So here's something that we, the Mediterraneans, have as a tradition. We are preparing kind of a dessert with rinds, but of course, usually they use sugar or honey. I'm using monk fruit, so I'm making again a little bit sweet. So there are some good things in the fruit world, and this is an interesting subject. What grows and what's available all year around because we are talking about eating seasonally, but since you have this climate which actually doesn't have real season changes, it's very mild change between seasons, what grows in your area and you can call it totally keto friendly?
So even though we have summer all year round, all our foods are still very seasonal. So there's orange season, there's mango season, there's pineapple, there's melon, there is, well, bananas grow all year round, but I don't eat bananas at all. Tropical fruits, especially the varieties that we grow nowadays, are extremely high sugar. They're not the same varieties that used to grow. So you have to be very, very careful. There is one tropical fruit that is low carb that I do enjoy when they're in season in moderation. It's something that we call the star fruit or five finger fruit or carambola, as they call it in some parts of the Caribbean. And one of them, a nice regular sized one about this, is probably about 6 grams of carbs. I'll have one of those from time to time. In the mountains, you can get berries, you can get strawberries, not grown on a very large scale, but I have gotten local strawberries to buy, and you can get wild raspberries up in the mountains. Yes, so if those are in season, and that season for wild raspberries is around between June and August, I'll eat some of that, and I'll buy local strawberries when I see them. Other than that, I don't obsess about fruit. I don't have to, you know? Anything, I tell people, anything you can get from fruit, you can get from green vegetables without, and from yellow and orange peppers without the sugar. I have determined that I don't need the amount of sugar that I used to consume. So I don't.
That's wonderful. So you dealt with your previous addictions and you're totally free now.
Totally.
Even if you eat a piece of watermelon, nothing happens. You don't crave it the next day.
Exactly so.
Wonderful, wonderful. There's another tropical fruit which we often recommend as a very high source of vitamin C. It's the acerola. I'm not sure.
Yes, we do have them. Those acerola cherries are grown on trees in people's yards. You can't go to a market and buy a pound of acerola cherry. But we used to have 2 trees when I was a kid, and we would make, well, here's the thing, we would make juice with it and sweeten it with sugar.
Because it's sour, it's normal. Yes. Everything which is high in vitamin C, it's very sour. The same like sea buckthorn, which is, I think, the best fruit on earth. I don't know if you have heard about it. Sea buckthorn is something that changed my winters, because here we have very different temperature differences, like fluctuation between summer, autumn, and then winter becomes really cold. And then here we go, the spring season is in particular difficult because even before the pandemic, a lot of flu and a cold would happen in that season. So a discovery for me was this fruit that comes from Himalayan zone, which is brought to Europe by Alexander the Great in the ancient times. And the way this fruit, it has only 1 gram of carb per 30 ml. So it's you don't need more than this 30 ml because it's extremely concentrated, high in omega-7. This is something that's very rare. So here's another thing which I would like to share with you in regards of low carb vitamin sources. But you are right. One can get everything from, let's say, egg yolks. All the vitamins are in an egg, except vitamin C, and then you can get it, as you said, from peppers or one of these low carb berry. But this is an interesting subject for ladies. You mentioned you are using butter for eggs. How many eggs you recommend to your trainees per day? Because in south of Europe, in Italy, in Greece, there's a big fear of eggs. They think it's going to skyrocket their cholesterol. They're so much afraid of it. And nothing is more ancestral than eggs. So how do you approach it? Is it okay? I sometimes have 8 eggs and I don't mind.
I say to them, when they say, I'm going to have an egg for breakfast, I said, no. I said, start at 3. If you can't do 3, if you're scared, start with 2. I said, there is no such, the eggs will not cause your cholesterol to increase. And increasing in an increased level of cholesterol is a whole different ball game. It's not as sinister as you've been led to think. So start with 2, but preferably have 3 eggs. If you want to go up as high as 6, if you want to have 3 in the morning and 3 for dinner, which by the way is a very good idea. You can have a great omelet for dinner, or a frittata, go right ahead. Do not throw away the yolk, for God's sake. Do not do it. Eat the whole egg. Egg is top tier. It's budget friendly. It's versatile. It's lovely. My daughter came up with a recipe. She found a recipe and she made some last week, and I tried it, called masala eggs, where she scrambled the eggs with garam masala and cumin and coriander, those lovely Asian spices, a little bit of tomato, some green onions. Oh, it's so good. It's so good for somebody who doesn't want to eat dairy for whatever reason. So you don't need the cheese. It's so good. So yeah, I recommend, I say start with 3 eggs, guys. Eat the egg.
Wonderful. The fear of eggs has to disappear, especially since we are warriors of low carb and keto.
Exactly.
So to finish this wonderful, wonderful conversation, it's evening time for me and daytime for you. And I wanted to say, to finish this evening, you know how we are always connected to our zone. I'll just ask you about your passion for traveling. You've been traveling before the pandemic a lot, and tell me, where have you been, and what do you remember from those travels?
So I always said, Roberta, that if I had unlimited money, that's what I would spend my money on. I would travel. I haven't traveled nearly as much as I want to. I have been to a couple islands in the Caribbean. I've been to Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago. I've been to Venezuela in South America. I've been to Chile. I've been to Mexico. I've been all over the United States. I've been to Canada. I've been to Israel. I've been to China. I've been to Thailand. And I really, by the way, Greece is on my bucket list. Greece is on my bucket list.
We will talk about that, definitely. I'm hoping to meet you in person. I'm hoping, keeping my fingers crossed. Yeah.
Greece is on my bucket list. I have never visited Africa, and I would love to visit West Africa. I would love to visit South Africa. And if I have time and resources, I would love to visit East Africa. I've always wanted to go to Australia as well. So hopefully I'll be able to do all of this when this whole pandemic nonsense is done, when we can travel like civilized people again. And if I have the resources to do it, I would love to be able to do that.
Wonderful. I really hope this is going to happen. And I also want to invite you to be my guest again. Let's say in a couple of months, we could talk again, and maybe you will have some news. Maybe I will have some different questions. So
sure.
I'm really happy that I can share your story. I can share your motivation with my viewers. And I wish all the best to you and your family. And as we say on Greek Goes Keto, stay ketonized to the full potential, but always stay positive. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roberta. Really appreciate it.